Most of the plants sitting in American garden centers right now will be dead in your containers by August. Not because you did anything wrong, because nobody told you which ones actually survive. These 17 perennials come back every single year. Handle drought, handle neglect, handle everything. And the one at number 12 actually looks better the less you touch it. Let's get into it. Before plant number 1, drop in the comments right now, what US state are you gardening in? Because your USDA zone completely changes which of these plants will perform best for you. I will be calling out specific zones throughout this entire video. Find yours and pay attention. Plant number 1, Sedum. Each leaf stores water inside its own tissue like a built-in reservoir. Sedum does not depend on you remembering to water it. It depends on itself. Established sedum can go for extended periods with almost no water and still bounce back cleanly. Try that with most other plants in your container garden and see what happens. Sedum planted in rich, heavily fertilized soil grows tall, floppy, and unattractive. Sedum planted in leaner, slightly poorer soil stays compact, colorful, and structured. Stop fertilizing it completely. The plant rewards your neglect with better form, better color, and better structure every single season. For varieties, Autumn Fire produces deep copper-pink flower clusters from September through November and stands upright in containers without flopping. Dragon's Blood grows low with vivid red foliage that intensifies dramatically as fall temperatures drop. Matrona is tall and architectural with burgundy stems and dusty pink blooms that look professionally designed without any effort on your part. If you are in USDA zones 3 through 9, that covers most of the continental United States, Sedum grows as a cold, hardy perennial that handles hard freezes without protection. In zones 9 and 10, give it afternoon shade during peak summer heat, and it performs just as reliably. Water Sedum deeply once when you first plant it, then cut back to once every 2 to 3 weeks through summer. When temperatures drop in fall, stop watering entirely. The fall color display it produces will be one of the best things in your entire container garden. Plant number 2, Lavender. Lavender evolved on rocky Mediterranean hillsides with almost no soil nutrition and almost no moisture retention. Moisture-retaining potting soil is lavender's primary killer. The soil most people automatically use is exactly what kills it. And here is the fix. Mix your standard potting soil with 1/3 coarse perlite or horticultural grit before planting. Use containers with a minimum of 3 drainage holes and never place sources underneath. That single change makes lavender dramatically more reliable in pots. For varieties, Hidcote is deep purple, compact, and one of the most cold, hardy English lavenders available, surviving down to zone 5. If you are in the South or Gulf Coast states, Phenomenal is the one to look for. It handles heat and humidity better than most lavender and performs reliably across zones 6 through 9. If fragrance is your priority, Grosso has an exceptionally high oil content and blooms continuously from June through August. Never fertilize lavender in containers, not once all season. Rich nutrients produce soft, weak growth with diminished fragrance. The oil concentration, which creates both the scent and the natural insect-repelling properties, actually increases when the plant is slightly hungry. Neglect is not just acceptable with lavender, it is the correct technique. And there is another advantage most people do not fully use. You can move lavender to exactly where you sit outside. On warm evenings, brush the foliage gently as you walk past. The oils release immediately. You have a fragrant, mosquito-deterring personal space created by one plant and one pot. If you are still watching and you are not subscribed yet, here is what that actually means practically. YouTube will stop putting this content in your feed. Not slow down, stop. The algorithm only consistently delivers videos from channels it recognizes you follow. I release practical experience-based container gardening content every single week. Content that saves you money, saves you time, and stops you from buying plants that are going to fail before summer ends. Hit subscribe right now. It is free. It will always be free, and it takes less time than it just took you to read that. Plant number 4, Hens and Chicks. This is the only container plant on this list that actively tries to give you more plants without being asked. It multiplies on its own schedule and hands you the results. The mother rosette, called the hen, continuously produces smaller rosettes around its outer edge. Those are the chicks. Each chick is a genetically complete, fully independent plant. You can separate it with your fingers, drop it into a fresh container with minimal soil, and it establishes without any special treatment. The mother hen blooms once after several years, then dies. But by that point, she has usually produced enough chicks to fill multiple containers many times over. The plant replaces itself and expands your collection at the same time. For varieties, cobweb hens and chicks is covered in fine white threads across the rosette surface that look exactly like delicate spider webs. It stops people in their tracks. Red Beauty transitions from green to deep burgundy as temperatures drop in fall, giving you a plant that looks completely different at the end of the season than it did at the beginning. Pacific Blue Ice produces blue-gray rosettes that look almost artificial. If you are in USDA zones 3 through 8, hens and chicks handle hard freezes without any protection whatsoever. They evolved in alpine conditions with scorching summers, bitter winters, and almost no soil. Your container garden, even a neglected one, is luxurious by comparison. They also thrive in shallow containers, ideal for window boxes, wall planters, and balconies where deeper pots are not practical. Have you ever grown hens and chicks before? And did yours multiply the way they were supposed to? Because some people get dozens of chicks from a single plant within one season, and some people get almost none. The difference comes down to one specific thing: container size and drainage. A hen in a cramped, poorly draining container puts all her energy into survival. A hen in a well-draining container with room to spread puts her energy into reproduction. I will cover exactly how to set that up correctly in the final section of this video, but drop your experience in the comments now because I genuinely want to know how many people have already been growing these and getting the results they deserve. Plant number 5, Catmint Walker's Low. This plant blooms for 6 months straight in American containers. 6 months. Most annuals cannot manage that. And catmint comes back every single year. From May through October, Walker's Low produces continuous clouds of blue-purple flowers on arching stems with gray-green aromatic foliage. Butterflies are strongly attracted. You will have visible wildlife activity around your containers all summer without planting anything specifically for that purpose. The foliage releases an herbal scent when brushed that many biting insects dislike. You are getting color, wildlife, and natural pest deterrents from one plant. When the first flush of flowers starts looking tired in July, cut the entire plant back by half. It looks severe for about 10 days, then it comes back with a second flush that is often heavier than the first. You get 2 complete bloom cycles from one plant in one season. Most gardeners skip this cut and lose 6 to 8 weeks of color every summer without understanding why their catmint underperformed. In zones 3 through 8, Walker's Low is fully cold-hardy and needs water only once weekly once established, even during peak summer heat. In zones 8 and 9, afternoon shade prevents the foliage from burning in extreme heat, but the plant performs reliably across the entire growing season. Now compare catmint directly to petunias, the most commonly purchased container plant in America. Petunias need deadheading every few days, weekly fertilizing, and complete replacement every single year. Catmint needs 1 trim per season, no fertilizer, and comes back stronger every spring for years. The honest reason more Americans are not growing catmint in containers is that garden centers make far more money selling petunias every year. Right now, I want you to do one thing before we go further. Hit the like button on this video. Not for me, because every like tells YouTube this content is worth showing to other gardeners across America who are spending money every spring on plants that are going to fail by August. Your one tap puts this information in front of someone who needs it. Someone who has killed the same annual 3 years in a row and has no idea these 17 plants exist. That is worth 1 second of your time. Plant number 6, Hosta. Hostas are actually more beautiful in containers than in ground plantings. Not equally beautiful, more beautiful. And the reason is specific. Containers eliminate slugs, the primary destroyer of hosta foliage in ground plantings. Containers also eliminate many drainage problems. Hostas rot in poorly draining ground soil, but thrive in a well-managed container mix. And containers give you portability. You move them to your best display location in summer and to a protected spot before hard freeze in fall. You are not compromising hostas by growing them in pots. You are often giving them better conditions than the ground provides. Sum and Substance produces enormous chartreuse gold leaves up to 18 inches across that glow in shade like they are lit from inside. Halcyon has powder blue foliage that is naturally more slug-resistant and stays clean and attractive all season. Patriot has deep green leaves with crisp white margins that look almost hand-painted. In zones 3 through 9, one of the widest cold hardiness ranges of any shade perennial, hostas handle hard freezes reliably. In zones 3 through 5, move containers against a protected wall or into an unheated garage before hard freeze. In zones 8 and 9, morning sun only. Afternoon shade is essential for keeping the foliage clean through summer heat. A hosta in a well-managed container does not need to be replaced, ever. It divides naturally every few years. You separate it into 2 or 3 plants that go into fresh containers with fresh soil mix. I have container hostas entering their 12th year. The original small plant has now produced enough divisions to fill multiple containers. That is the mathematics of perennial gardening that annual gardeners never get to experience, and it is one of the most satisfying things in this entire hobby. Plant number 7, Coral Bells, Heuchera. Heuchera is available in burgundy, silver, lime green, caramel, orange, and near black. More color range than most flowering plants, and that color is present from the moment the plant breaks dormancy in spring until hard freeze in fall, or year-round in zones 7 through 9, where it stays evergreen. You are not waiting for bloom season. You have color in your containers from day 1. Palace Purple produces deep burgundy leaves that appear almost black in certain light, one of the most dramatic foliage effects available in container gardening. Lime Ricky is electric chartreuse that brightens shady corners in a way few plants can. Caramel produces warm amber-orange tones that shift through the season and looks genuinely different every month from spring through fall. In zones 4 through 9, Heuchera is reliably cold-hardy. In zones 4 through 6, the foliage may flatten during hard freezes, then rebound cleanly in spring. In zones 7 through 9, it stays evergreen and provides container color and structure all year. Most people place it in deep shade and then wonder why the color fades. Heuchera produces its strongest foliage color in bright, indirect light or 2 to 3 hours of gentle morning sun, not deep shade. The deeper the shade, the more washed out the color becomes. Move your Heuchera containers to where they catch morning light and watch the color intensity change within a couple of weeks. That one adjustment makes more difference than any fertilizer, soil amendment, or other intervention you could make. Plant number 8, Astilbe. When people see Astilbe in bloom, they assume it is difficult. It produces feathery plumes that look like something from a professional florist arrangement, and people automatically assume that level of beauty requires that level of effort. It does not. And in containers, Astilbe often performs better than it does in ground plantings. In the ground, Astilbe is entirely dependent on whatever moisture the surrounding soil holds. In a dry summer, ground-planted Astilbe struggles. The plumes come in smaller, and the bloom period shortens. In a container, you control exactly how much water the plant receives. That control produces bigger plumes, longer bloom periods, and cleaner foliage than open ground planting in the same garden. The container is not a compromise for this plant. It is an upgrade. Bridal Veil produces pure white plumes that glow in shade with an elegance that stops people mid-conversation. Fennel has deep red flowers rising above dark bronze foliage, one of the most dramatic color combinations available in shade container gardening. Sprite is compact, shell pink, perfect for smaller containers, and has won more awards than almost any other Astilbe variety in American horticulture. In zones 3 through 8, Astilbe is fully cold hardy and returns reliably every spring with more flowering stems than the previous season. Unlike most drought-tolerant perennials on this list, Astilbe genuinely prefers consistent moisture, which containers make straightforward to manage. Morning sun with afternoon shade is the ideal placement in zones 7 and 8. After blooming ends, do not cut the spent plumes immediately. Left standing through fall, they transition to a warm russet brown that provides genuine container interest into November. Then cut them back in late fall or early spring. Either timing works perfectly well. Plant number 9, Japanese painted fern. This fern makes people stop walking and ask what it is every single time. The silver and burgundy coloring looks like someone painted each frond by hand. It is completely natural. It is completely effortless to grow, and it does something in a shady container arrangement that no other plant on this list can do. It adds a metallic, almost luminous quality that makes everything around it look more intentional. Burgundy lace has stronger purple tones than the standard variety and is one of the most dramatic painted fern options available to American gardeners. Ghost is nearly pure silver, almost luminous in deep shade, and one of the most visually striking foliage plants you can put in a container. The classic pictum, silver gray with a burgundy midrib running down each frond, remains one of the best performers decades after it first appeared in American nurseries. Hardy in zones 3 through 8, it dies back completely in winter and returns reliably in spring. Here is one specific thing most people get wrong. Do not cut back the old fronds in fall. Leave them standing through winter. They provide natural insulation for the crown through hard freezes. Remove them in early spring when you see fresh growth emerging from the base. That timing protects the plant through its most vulnerable period. Compare Japanese painted fern directly to standard green ferns in containers. Standard green ferns look exactly like what they are. Japanese painted fern looks like something from a designer's arrangement. The care requirements are essentially identical. The visual result is in a different category entirely. If you are growing a fern in a container, grow one that earns its space every day it sits on your porch. Plant number 10, Bergenia winterglow. This is the plant that proves container gardening does not stop when summer ends. While every other perennial on your porch goes dormant, Bergenia is changing color, holding structure, and preparing to flower before winter is even finished. In spring, it produces clusters of pink flowers before most other perennials have even broken dormancy, often while there is still frost on the ground in the morning. Through summer, the thick, glossy leaves provide bold container structure. In fall, those leaves begin transitioning to deep burgundy red as temperatures drop. And through winter, the evergreen foliage holds its form and color, while every other container around it looks empty and forgotten. Hardy in zones 3 through 8, it tolerates deep shade, drought, poor soil, and temperatures well below zero once established. In zones 3 and 4, the winter color display is actually most dramatic. The coldest temperatures produce the deepest burgundy tones, and the contrast against snow or frost is genuinely spectacular. I have Bergenia containers that have not been fertilized once since planting, watered when remembered, which in winter means almost never, and never divided. Every spring, they flower before I have even started thinking seriously about opening the rest of the container season. That is the standard every plant on this list needs to meet, and Bergenia meets it with less effort than almost any of them. Here is something I want you to do right now. Think of one person in your life who keeps spending money at the garden center every spring, keeps losing plants by July, and keeps thinking the problem is them. It is not them. It is the plants they are choosing. Send this video to that person right now. You do not need a message, just the link. That one action could save them years of frustration and hundreds of dollars. Hit share. Do it before you forget. Plant number 11, Black-Eyed Susan, Rudbeckia. This plant blooms from July through October, attracts goldfinches directly to your containers, and gets more floriferous every year it grows. It also requires almost nothing from you after the first season. A mature Black-Eyed Susan can produce an astonishing number of blooms at peak flowering, creating a mass of golden yellow against dark centers that is almost impossible to replicate with any other single perennial at the same price point. Gold Sturm is the benchmark variety, award-winning, reliable, compact enough for containers, blooming continuously from midsummer into early fall. Prairie Sun has yellow petals with green centers instead of dark, a fresher and more contemporary look. Cherry Brandy produces copper-orange tones that set it apart from the standard yellows. Hardy in zones 3 through 9. Here is the performance fact most people miss. Black-Eyed Susan performs better in its second and third year than as a new planting. The root system strengthens over winter and produces more flowering stems each successive season. A plant you buy this spring will be more impressive next summer, and even more impressive the summer after that. You are not just buying a plant, you are making a compounding investment in your container garden. Leave the seed heads standing through fall and winter. Goldfinches, chickadees, and housefinches feed on them actively from October through February. Your container becomes a wildlife feeding station that costs nothing to operate after the plant is established. Plant number 12, Lamb's Ear, Stachys. Here is the plant I told you about at the beginning, the one that gets more beautiful the less you do to it. And I want you to understand exactly why, because the science behind it is one of the most fascinating things in container gardening. Lamb's Ear originates from rocky, sun-baked hillsides in Turkey and Iran. The leaves are covered in dense silver-white hairs. Those hairs are not decorative. They are a survival system. They reflect intense sunlight to prevent the leaf from overheating. They trap a thin layer of dry air against the leaf surface to slow moisture loss. When you overwater lamb's ear, those hairs flatten against the leaf, trap moisture instead of air, and the plant rots from the outside in. When you underwater it, the hairs stay upright, stay silver, and the plant becomes more striking with every week of drought. Neglect is not a mistake with this plant. It is the correct growing technique. Big Ears produces leaves up to 6 inches long, the most dramatic variety for container display and the one that generates the most reactions from visitors. Helen von Stein rarely produces flowers, which means the plant's energy goes directly into silver foliage. It is an excellent choice if pure visual impact is your priority. Silky Fleece is smaller and more compact, perfect for mixed container arrangements where you want a silver accent without a dominant presence. Hardy in zones 4 through 8. In zones 9 and 10, provide afternoon shade. The dense hairs can manage intense sun, but extreme southern heat combined with humidity creates conditions outside what the plant evolved to handle. Put lamb's ear next to almost any other container plant, and it does something those plants cannot do. It invites touch. People reach out and brush it without thinking. That tactile quality, combined with the silver color, makes it one of the most commented on plants in any container garden. And you achieve all of that by watering it less than almost anything else on your patio. Plant number 13, Daylily, Hemerocalis. Each daylily flower lasts exactly 1 day. Each plant produces dozens of buds per stem. The math means continuous color for months from a plant that asks for almost nothing after the first season. It blooms from June through September, multiplies naturally every 3 to 4 years, and divides into additional plants you can move into fresh containers at zero cost. Available in nearly every color except true blue, Stella d'Oro is the gold standard for containers. Compact, reblooming from spring through frost, and universally reliable across a wide range of American climates. Happy Returns is pale yellow and slightly more heat-tolerant. Purple d'Oro delivers the same compact, reliable growth in deep purple. hardy in zones 3 through 9. Evergreen varieties in zones 7 through 9 retain foliage through mild winters. Dormant varieties in zones 3 through 6 die back and return with full vigor every spring. Drop in the comments what color daylily you have or want in your containers, because the variety selection is genuinely overwhelming, and I want to know what American gardeners are actually drawn to most. Plant number 14. Ornamental grass. No other container plant does what ornamental grass does. Movement, sound, 4-season structure, and almost zero maintenance after the first year. Spring brings fresh green vertical structure back to containers. Summer develops the familiar feathery plumes. Fall transitions to warm gold, while seed heads feed birds. Winter provides standing architecture when everything else looks abandoned. Carl Forster feather reedgrass stands narrow and upright at 4 to 5 feet, one of the most architectural container grasses available. Morning light has fine silver-edged leaves with a graceful arching habit. Blue fescue forms compact blue-gray mounds, perfect for smaller containers or mixed arrangements. Carl Forster is hardy in zones 4 through 9, morning light in zones 5 through 9, blue fescue in zones 4 through 8. Cut ornamental grasses back to 4 to 6 inches in late February. That is the complete maintenance requirement for the entire year. One task, a few minutes, and then watch it return taller and fuller than the season before. Plant number 15, coneflower, echinacea. Native plant, medicinal history going back centuries. Blooms for months. Seeds feed birds through winter. And it is remarkably tough in containers. Coneflower does more for your yard than almost any other single plant on this list. Flowers from June through September with minimal deadheading. Seed heads left standing through fall and winter feed goldfinches, chickadees, and housefinches. It also self-seeds into surrounding containers, giving you free plants every season. Magnus purple is the classic, with larger flower heads than the species, a more upright habit, and outstanding reliability. White swan is pure white with orange centers and a slightly softer look. Hot papaya produces dramatic orange-red double flowers, hardy in zones 3 through 9. In zones 4 and 5, place containers against a protected south-facing wall during the coldest weeks. Plant number 16, Hellebore, Ice and Roses series. This plant blooms in snow. While every other plant in your containers is dormant, Hellebore is producing flowers. Blooms from December through April, one of the longest single bloom periods of any perennial available to American gardeners. Flowers come in white, pink, burgundy, yellow, and near black. The evergreen foliage provides 12 months of container structure with thick, glossy leaves that look architectural all year without any intervention. Ice and Roses. Red produces deep burgundy flowers from winter into early spring. Wedding Party has pure white double flowers. Penny's Pink offers soft pink blooms with darker veining and one of the most elegant looks in the Hellebore world. Hardy in zones 4 through 9. In zones 4 and 5, place containers against a protected south-facing wall during the coldest weeks. In zones 7 through 9, the bloom window can stretch even longer. Most gardeners spend winter looking at empty containers. Hellebore gardeners spend winter looking at flowers. That difference costs almost exactly the same amount of effort. Secret number 1. Drainage kills more plants than drought. The number 1 killer of container perennials in America is not underwatering. It is overwatering combined with poor drainage. Roots sitting in waterlogged soil cannot access oxygen. They suffocate and rot, and by the time you see damage in the foliage, it is already too late. Every container needs multiple drainage holes. Water should drain visibly and quickly. If it pools for too long, your mix is too dense, and your roots are already at risk. Secret number 2. Container size determines everything. A perennial in a small container dries out faster in summer and freezes harder in winter. A larger container holds moisture longer, insulates roots better, and supports stronger long-term growth. Container size is not just about how big the plant can get, it is about winter survival. Secret number 3, the soil mix that does half your work. Never use standard garden soil. Too heavy. Never use a cheap, soggy mix that holds too much moisture. A good container blend drains well, holds enough moisture, and feeds gradually through the season without forcing weak growth. Refresh the top layer each spring with compost and a slow-release amendment. That simple yearly step keeps the entire system performing. Here is what I want to say directly before this video ends. If you are in your 50s, 60s, or beyond, you have spent enough summers replacing plants that were never going to make it. You have spent enough money on annuals that looked beautiful in April and were dead by July. Subscribe to this channel right now because every single week I put out content built specifically to make your garden easier, more beautiful, and more rewarding without asking more of your time. Free. Always will be.